Hello everybody. Today I would like to talk about industrial age typography. When we think of typography today, like digital fonts, instant downloads, layout tools, it's easy to forget how physical and labor intensive it once was. The industrial age was a turning point. Typography wasn't just about books anymore. It was about selling, shouting, and mass communication. In this period, design evolved from quiet elegance, just like the calligraphy, um, illuminated manuscript, to something much louder, bolder, and industrial, mirroring the age itself. As technology advanced, Europe and the US changed dramatically. People flooded into cities to work in factories. Steam engines powered everything. And with machines came mass production. Power shifted. The aristocracy gave way to the industrial capitalist, the merchants, the factory owner, the printer. Investing in machines, not land, became the new source of wealth. But this progress came with social costs, long days, child labor, pollution, poor housing. The Industrial Revolution created as much misery as it did prosperity. Designers and printers were caught in this contradiction, surrounded by technological marvels, but also by human exhaustion. Graphic design became the marketing arm of industrial capitalism. Factories could produce more goods than ever before. Now they needed to sell them. Posters, broadsides, and printed advertisements filled city streets. Typography had to compete with noise, smoke, and distraction. Letters got bigger, bolder, louder. They had to shout through the chaos of urban life. The goal wasn't subtlety, it was impact, immediate visual, emotional. This was the beginning of display typography, as you see right now. The 19th century became a playground for typographic experimentation. Type designers began to stretch, exaggerate, and decorate letter forms. Before the industrial age, typography was mostly restrained. Transitional or modern typefaces like Baskerville and Badani. They were elegant, designed for books, for reading in quiet rooms. But industrial typography lived on the street. It had to perform. So for example, slab serif is also called the Egyptian square serif. Out came the Egyptian or slab serif, the heavy, blocky fonts with thick rectangular serifs and minimal contrast. They were sometimes called antiques. Designers like Robert Thorne, Vincent Figgins, and Henry Carson created these new alphabets with a sense of masculinity. They were mechanical, geometric, a perfect reflection of the factory age. So we talked about typography and its representation of the age. So Gothic period, the Middle Age period, Gothic was the typeface. that represented the time. Then here, if we have to pick one typeface that represents industrial age, Egyptians or slab serif, square serif is it. If Renaissance type whispered on a page, industrial age type yelled from a wall. In 1815, Vincent Figgins introduced a typeface that mimicked three-dimensional depth. Suddenly, words didn't just sit flat. They popped forward, almost sculptural. Printers went wild with decorative embellishments, shadows, outlines, inlines, ornaments. Typography became illustration. This moment reminds me of today's digital effects, gradients, bevels, drop shadows. The tools have changed, but the impulse is the same, to make words look alive. So here, a very basic press. As letter forms got larger, lead type became too heavy to cast. And that enters into wood type. In the 1820s, Darius Wells began carving letters from wood, lighter, cheaper, and easier to scale. Wood type opened the door for giant posters and handbills. It's what allowed typographic spectacle, massive circus posters, traveling show ads, and announcements, big announcements. One famous shop that kept this tradition alive is Hatch Show Print in Nashville, founded in 1879. They still print with wood type and letterpress, using the same presses that once made posters for country music stars and circuses. You can see it. Bold slab serifs, condensed lettering, mixed fonts, all hand composed. If you've ever seen a modern concert poster or craft beer labeled using this rugged handmade look, it's the legacy of wood type. So here, to our modern eyes, these posters can feel chaotic. Too many typefaces, uneven spacing, no hierarchy. It's just against everything that we learned and we were trained. But at the time, there was logic to it. Printers had limited typesets. They mixed whatever they had. It's not like you can go online, find your typeface, download it, and use it. It wasn't that. You had to work with what you have. So the wood, metal, condensed, expanded to fit the line and fill the space. Long words were squeezed with condensed fonts. Short words were stretched with expanded ones. The goal wasn't harmony. It was legibility and visual punch, because it has to compete. So it's funny, they were doing what we now call modular design before anyone gave it a name. After Gutenberg's hand press, printing was still painfully slow. Each letter had to be set by hand. And in the early 1800s, Friedrich Koenig, a German inventor, developed the steam-powered press. It could print thousands of sheets per hour. That changed everything. Words could now travel as fast as train. Then in 1886, Ottmar Muggenthaler invented the linotype machine. perhaps the single most important leap for typography since Gutenberg. Linotype printer. Instead of setting type by hand, an operator could type on a keyboard. The machine cast whole lines of metal type automatically. Revolutionary. One linotype could do the work of 7 or 8 compositors. It made newspapers and magazines like the Saturday Evening Post possible.
This is a linotype machine. It was invented back in late 1800s by Otmar Morgenthaler. What this does, it's a hot metal machine. It sets the type. Instead of setting your type by hand, this prints everything with these little matrix. It's basically a mold that gets injected with hot lead, and it makes your line of type. As you type on the keyboard, the little matrix drop down from the magazines up here and then form a line of them here, and then you send it through the system, and then it prints in lead. To print stuff back in the day, you had to set each individual letter by hand. Just for instance, this says, "Welcome to the National Museum of Industrial History." So each letter would have had to be set by hand. You had to individually pick out each letter and put it down in order. And it usually took about a week to produce 8 pages. Where this way here, all you have to do is just type, press the space key and the enter key, and it sends a machine down through it. And as it's cycling through, you still can keep typing on it. This machine, when it came out into production, revolutionized, and that basically started the magazine industry and the newspaper industry. So you could print a whole page, a whole article in one shot in these lead slugs, and then take all these lead slugs over to your press and print them on your printing press. Right now, your lowercase letters are on your left, your uppercase letters are on your right, and your spaces and your punctuations are in the middle. As I'm typing, these letters are dropping down. Up in the top here, there's all these little levers, and when you press the button on the keyboard, it activates a lever here, and that goes up into the magazine, and there's a little rocking motion up there. The matrix are all slid in a little spot like this. There's a little matrix, so every time you press a button, the rocking motion allows this matrix to fall down, and it goes up and stops the next one coming down. There's 90 rows across, and each row has about between 20 and 30 of these little matrix, which is the letters. This elevator here lifts the matrix up, an arm pushes it over to they call it the first elevator. The first elevator accepts it and pulls it down into the mold cavity. That's when it gets injected with the lead. And then once that's all done, the slug will rotate around. It gets trimmed off the sides and trimmed off the bottom to whatever you have it set, your font size. And then it just, the lead slug will drop out here, and then the matrices raise up and go back up into their spots where they drop down into the magazines. Come on down, visit us here at the National Museum of Industrial History in Bethlehem. Hope to see you soon.
So that's the same kind of leap we saw later with the personal computer. Technology democratizing design, changing who gets to communicate. So linotype poster example. So let's step back and compare how different are we really. Before the industrial age, typography was uniformity and control. The book as a sacred object. In the industrial age, it became loud, mechanical, and commercial. The poster as a public voice. And now, the digital age, typography is once again democratized. Anyone can design, publish, and broadcast instantly. What used to take teams of printers and weeks of labor, we now do in seconds with Adobe Illustrator or Procreate or Adobe InDesign, Photoshop. all that jazz. But there's the irony. Many of our favorite digital fonts, like slab serifs, condensed display types, decorative lettering, all come directly from this 19th century industrial aesthetic. Even in digital design, the industrial impulse to capture attention, to sell, to communicate remains the same. The industrial age transformed typography from an era of quiet reading into an art of loud communication. Machines multiplied words, but they also multiplied voices. Literacy spread, information expanded, and the world became more connected visually and socially. Every era reinvents typography to match its technology, from Gutenberg's press to the linotype to your laptop. And every designer, whether setting type in lead, the metal type, or on a screen, still faces the same challenge. How do we make words not just readable, but unforgettable? Okay, that's it for today. I'll see you next week.